Hi, public speaking class. This is Rebecca Lane, and I wanted to talk you through your persuasive speech. All right, so let's take a look at this. The persuasive speech is a 3 to 5 minute presentation that you will also include a slideshow with. So this is going to be one of your last presentations in this class, so we expect this to be your very best presentation. So the reason we are doing this is to help you practice persuasive speaking. So normally, a lot of times we'll do speaking to inform people, but the speaking that's really going to get us a job, or the speaking that is going to sell our product, or the speaking that is going to persuade others to go along with our idea, that is considered persuasive speaking. And so that's the skill that we have been working towards in this class. Now, we will also continue to build on your visual communication, which does include synchronizing your speech with a slideshow. And every practice that you do will strengthen your delivery technique. And of course, we are focusing on research and APA formatting and stuff like that. All right, so the very first thing that I want to point out is that we are utilizing ethos, pathos, and logos to build a persuasive message. And when you attend lecture, or if you read the textbook, you'll really understand what ethos, pathos, and logos mean. But understand that in this speech, I am looking for you to use ethos, pathos, and logos evenly, even distribution of those three concepts. Now, so that means that you want to use logic, you want to inform us, you want to appear credible, you want to use research, you want to give credit to other people, and you really want to connect with us emotionally. If you're having trouble finding a topic, here are some places where you could potentially find some global topics, some current issues, things that you might feel passionate about. I recommend choosing a topic that you feel passionate about because it does you a service, right? If you're already passionate about it, then that's going to come through in your delivery. And so that's really going to help you. Also, if you're passionate about something, you might already have some previous knowledge. Now, one of the things that I want to caution you against is sometimes when people are very passionate about a topic, they get lost in the emotion and they lose the logic. You will want to be very, very careful of that. Remember, we're looking for an even distribution of emotion, facts and logic, and credibility. You also want to make sure that you are focusing on your audience. We're not choosing the arguments that you personally find most persuasive. You want to choose the arguments that you believe your audience will find the most persuasive, and those are not always the same thing. So finally, you will want to use Keynote or PowerPoint to build your slideshow. And make sure that you're including images and information that support your case, that add to your message. So if you can give me an image that's going to help me emotionally connect with what you're talking about, that's the image that you want to choose. If you can give me an image that will help represent the statistic, help me visualize the statistic that you are sharing, then that's the image that you want to choose. You want images that will add to the content that you were saying. So finally, on speech day, don't forget, you will need to bring your typed and printed speaking outline. This says keyword outline, but double check the textbook and reference what speaking outline looks like. There are some really great examples in your textbook. And if you're not sure where that is, you can look in the index. The index is a really awesome resource in our textbook. You will also want to make sure that you've got a reference list of all of your APA source citations. Remember, you want it to be an APA source format. So if you're not sure what that is, you probably should go look at the Purdue OWL. Go Google Purdue OWL APA source citations, and it will show you the exact format that you're looking for. Now, on speech day, I will expect you to bring me 2 drafts of your outline. First, the full sentence outline that you developed as a rough draft. And then second, I expect you to bring your speaking outline, which should be your final draft of your outline. And third, I expect you to bring the worksheet that we used in class. So you have 3 items that you will be handing to me on the day that you speak. Now, things to keep in mind, really do follow the outline worksheet carefully. I'm going to show you where that is in just a second. It's really important. It's exactly what I want you to do. Don't forget to use physical narration. Make sure that your entire project plays with ease. Make sure that you know what happens next. If you don't remember what to do with your slides, there are some tutorials on FSO, but you can also visit Gar Reynolds' Top 10 Slide Tips. And don't forget that this is a persuasive speech, so you really need to make sure that you are persuading us to do something. So if your thesis includes, I'd like to inform you about, or if it says, I'd like to teach you, or I want you to know, okay, so all of those words indicate informative as opposed to persuasive. So persuasive would, I want you to agree, or I want you to believe, or I want you to take action, or I want you to do this. Those kinds of thesis statements that start like that or include those phrases, that's going to be more persuasive. So if you've got something to inform or teach or I want you to know, you're not quite following the assignment. It might not be persuasive enough. So really focus on what you want the audience to do. What do you want them to do when you're done speaking? What kind of action can they take? You do want to make sure that you have research that supports your case. Sometimes I see people and they've got research that is kind of connected to what they're trying to say, or I've actually seen people even bring in research that completely refutes what they're talking about. So you want to make sure that you are very careful with the research that you support and that it actually says what you think it is saying. A way to do that is, a way to know that you're doing that is to run your research by other people and see what they say. Also, with your research, you must cite your information when you use it. So just like in your informative speech, you should have at minimum one reference per main point. So every time you've got a main point, you should have at least one, a minimum of one, source citation. And you'll want to cite it out loud, and you'll also want to write that APA source citation in your outline. So don't forget, saying it out loud is not enough by itself, and writing down that source citation is not enough by itself. You have to do both of those with all of your information. All right, we're going to talk about slides for a second. You want to make sure you're keeping them simple, just like we're talking about in class. Make sure that you're not using bullet points. You want to make sure that you are creating a pattern with your text, your size, your font, your color. If you're using shapes, you're creating a pattern with those shapes. We're using large images, stuff like that. Don't forget to do that. And really, the key to this, because this should be your best speech so far, is practice. Practice means getting the words in your mouth. Practice means saying your speech with different words to several different people so you get their responses. Practice means that you know what slide comes next without having to look at that slideshow. So really make sure that you practice. And finally, you'll see that down here we have a sample video. Watch the sample video. This Nelson Rodriguez did an awesome job. He got an A on his persuasive speech, and I'm the one who graded him. So since you're in my class, go ahead and watch Nelson's speech. Look at the sample, look at the outline while you watch it. Pay attention to how he cites his sources out loud. Pay attention to his storytelling. There's a lot of good information here on FSO. Now, speaking of good information, if you want the information that I just talked you through, the assignment sheet is available right here, and you'll see it's saying exactly the same things that I just talked you through. Also, I mentioned that persuasive speech outline. So you see over here in the assets box, we have a bunch of resources. So let's look at what this persuasive outline looks like. So remember, you can always delete the items that are in the parentheses. I don't need to see those. Also, the references from the textbook, and sometimes these page numbers vary simply based on the version of the book, but for the most part they're pretty accurate. So make sure you've got an open with impact. You might want to write it out more than you write out the other stuff. That's okay. Make sure you've got that two-part connect with audience, and so that means that you tell us why we care, and you tell us why you care. What is your personal connection to the topic? What gives you credibility? And who am I as an audience member? What is my personal investment in this? Why do I care today? This was kind of important with your informative speech. It's essential with your persuasive speech. Really review how to make a strong thesis statement. Make sure your thesis statement is persuasive. Make sure it is not informative. And And then you've got that preview statement. So remember, your preview statement clearly repeats the title of your main point 1, the title of your main point 2, and the title of your main point 3. And remember, we're thinking of these main point titles as chapter titles. So we want them to be complete sentences, but we also don't want it to be new information. The place where we're going to put that data, anything that we might want to actually have a source citation for, that's going to live in our supporting points. Now, you see that I have given you 3 supporting point options. I don't expect you to use 3 supporting points. This is just here as an option. So if you're going to put in a sort of supporting point, you don't have to label it supporting point 1. Just put in the story about the cat, or 59% of people on the road after midnight on a Saturday night have had a couple of alcoholic beverages, according to the National Institute of Health. Now, something that you will want to do is, if you are citing information in your subpoints, you'll want to make sure that you cite them when you use them, kind of like an in-text source citation when you're writing an English paper, so that when you go back, when you try to speak from your outline, you know what information came from which source. Because remember, you're going to have to say it out loud, too. So finally, let's go to that conclusion. Now, in the persuasive speech, you do want to summarize your 3 main points, and I like to think of this as picking your favorite fact, like picking your favorite moment from main point 1, your favorite moment from main point 2, remind me of your favorite moment from main point 3, and then remind me why you were talking, remind me of your thesis. And finally, in the persuasive speech, you will want a call to action. You're going to want to tell us what you want us to do, and we want it to be as concrete and tangible as possible. All right, here's where your source citations go, and that is exactly what I'm looking for. You'll be working with this outline a couple of times as we work on the speech, and the last thing I want to call your attention to is the persuasive speech rubric. So you'll see you've got the instructions, you've got the outline, and you've got the rubric, and the rubric is how I'm grading you. So please notice we've got eye contact, so 10, 20, 30. Your delivery is 30% of your grade. So you must deliver this speech, and I'm really listening. I'm looking to see that you have practiced. I'm looking to see that you have improved. Next, we're looking at the way you use persuasion. So ethos, did you cite your sources? Did you look like you knew what you're talking about? Did I trust you? So you'll see that some of these things aren't quite as tangible, right? So you'll want to make sure that you're being very specific. Cite your sources loudly. Cite your sources frequently. Make sure that you qualify your sources. Who is Joe Bob? I don't know. Is he your next door neighbor? Or is he this awesome researcher who works for a very specific university? You need to say that out loud, like a story. Pathos. So, are you getting me emotionally involved in your topic? I'm listening for stories here. I'm listening for you to use stories as support. I'm listening for you to tug at my heartstrings. I'm looking to see that you seem genuine and that you are sincere. So, see, stories that support, sincerity, appropriate emotion. Okay, so that's what goes into pathos. So if I'm giggling during a very important part of my speech, that means you're probably not going to get a high score on pathos, right? And then I've got logos. I'm looking for very clear, specific facts. Not abstract sentences, but we want it to be as concrete as possible. I want your structure. I want your argument to be logical. I need it to make sense, and that's what I'm grading you on. It needs to be relevant. So make sure that you're not using data from 1950, right? You want to use data that is as current as possible, because current usually means relevant. But you also want to use data that actually applies to your topic. If you've got a fact but it doesn't relate back to your thesis statement, then it doesn't do you any good, right? You want it to be credible, and you want it to be fair. So this fair thing is important. Sometimes when we're really emotional about a topic, when we're emotionally involved, we care very deeply, it's easy to only see our personal side of the story. But really effective persuasion acknowledges both sides. You want to respect your audience, no matter where they are in relation to your topic. And through that respect, you can win them over. The moment you treat your audience like they're dumb, the moment you speak to them like they're dumb, then that's the moment that you lose them. That's the moment they stop listening. So really make sure that you are respecting your audience. So finally, we want to look at that structure of the presentation. So the things that we've been looking at this entire month, your introduction. Make sure you've got all of these items. You want to preview your points. You want to establish your personal credibility. You want to make sure your thesis is clear. And all of these things need to be obvious. Remember, we're looking for good speaking, not good essay writing. So everything needs to be very obvious. The body of your speech, this is really looking at the structure. Do you have main points? Are they supported by sources? So did you give supporting points, or did you just make a bunch of claims afterwards? Are you transitioning between main points really smoothly? Is the structure logically organized? So do I feel like there is a structure? Can I hear that structure? Do all of your main points support your thesis? Notice you'll see logic is in here a lot. I'm really listening for your argument to make sense. I want it to be organized. I want it to be coherent. Really go back to concrete and obvious. And finally, we've got that conclusion. So you want to have a clear summary. You want to have a call to action, and you want to have that effective clincher. And at the very last but not least, we're definitely looking at the slideshow. You must have one. It's 10 points of your grade. So just continue to work on the slideshow that you've been working on it this month. So finally, please notice if you do not bring the outline materials to class, and that's the rough draft and the final draft and the class review worksheet, you will have 10 points deducted from your final grade. And that's just a bummer. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to have that, right? So make sure that you are being very conscientious about that. All right, let me know if you have questions. I would be thrilled to talk to you about this. And I'm looking forward to seeing your persuasive speech. All right, I'll talk to you soon.